Marcus Johnson was not your average man. He was strong, smart, and always knew what he wanted in life. From a young age, Marcus dreamed of becoming someone who could make a difference. Growing up in Chicago's South Side, he saw both the good and the bad in his community. He watched how some people helped others, but he also saw how many lives were ruined by crime, poverty, and unfair treatment, especially if you were black. His parents worked hard every day. His father was a mechanic, and his mother cleaned offices. At night, they didn't have much money, but they made sure Marcus had everything he needed: food, clothes, love, and most importantly, hope. Hope that he could become more than what the world expected of him. Even as a kid, Marcus stood out. He was respectful, curious, and never backed down from a challenge. When he was in high school, he joined the ROTC program because he liked discipline and helping others. That's where he first heard about the FBI. A guest speaker came in one day, a real agent, and told stories about catching dangerous criminals, protecting people, and working for justice. Marcus was hooked. From that day on, he knew what he wanted to do with his life. The long road to becoming an FBI agent. Getting into the FBI wasn't easy. It took years of education, training, and proving himself over and over again. Marcus studied criminal justice in college and graduated with honors. After that, he joined the military for a few years, where he learned leadership, strategy, and how to stay calm under pressure. When he finally applied to the FBI, he passed every test: physical, mental, and emotional. But even after getting accepted, he quickly realized something. Being black in the FBI was still rare. Some agents respected him right away, but others looked at him like he didn't belong. He had to work twice as hard to earn half the credit. Still, Marcus didn't let it stop him. He focused on doing his job well. Over the next decade, he worked on big cases that made headlines. He helped take down gangs, catch corrupt politicians, and stop terror plots before they could happen. People started to respect him, not just because of his skin color or background, but because of his skill, courage, and heart. But being an FBI agent came with sacrifices: long hours, missed birthdays, sleepless nights, and sometimes danger. There were times when Marcus feared for his life. Once, during a raid, a gang member shot at him. Another time, he went undercover and almost got caught. Through it all, he stayed strong. He did it because he believed in justice. He believed in making the world safer for everyone. Home life. The man behind the badge. Outside of work, Marcus was a family man. He met his wife Tanya in college. She was beautiful, kind, and incredibly smart. She became a school counselor, helping kids deal with problems at home and in school. Together, they built a life filled with love, laughter, and hard work. They had 2 kids, Jordan, their son, who was 16 and loved basketball, and Maya, their daughter, who was 14 and already smarter than most adults. Their home was full of life. Weekends meant barbecues, game nights, and long talks about the world. But Marcus knew something many people didn't. Life wasn't fair. Even though he wore a badge and served his country, he still faced racism. He'd been pulled over for no reason. He'd been followed in stores. He'd seen how police treated other black men differently, even innocent ones. He talked to his kids about it. He taught them to be proud of who they were, but also careful. You may have to prove yourself more than others, he would say, but don't ever let anyone tell you you're less than. Tanya supported him every step of the way. She knew how hard he worked, and she knew how much he gave up for his job. So when Marcus said he wanted to take the family on a vacation, she was thrilled. Planning the trip, it had been years since they'd taken a real break. Work kept Marcus busy, and the kids were always in school or involved in sports. So one spring evening, sitting at the dinner table, Marcus dropped the bomb. "How about we go on a road trip this summer?" The kids looked at each other, then at their dad like he had just offered them free pizza for a year. "Seriously?" Jordan asked. "Yes, seriously," Marcus laughed. "We'll rent an SUV, drive through the Midwest, camp a little, maybe hit Yellowstone." Maya squealed with excitement. "No phones, no homework, just us." Tanya smiled warmly. "I think it's a great idea. We need this." So the planning began. They picked a route from Chicago through Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and finally to Yellowstone National Park. They packed camping gear, snacks, music playlists, and plenty of water. They even bought matching T-shirts that said Johnson Family Adventure 2025 on the back. To Marcus, this trip was more than just fun. It was healing. It was a chance to reconnect with his family, to show them the beauty of nature, and to remind himself that there was more to life than chasing bad guys. For once, he wouldn't be carrying a gun or wearing a badge. He'd just be Dad. The day they left. The morning of the trip was full of energy and joy. The kids ran around the house double-checking their bags. Tanya made pancakes and coffee while Marcus loaded the rented SUV. As they pulled out of the driveway, they waved goodbye to the neighbors. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and everything felt perfect. They played music, sang along, told jokes, and laughed like they hadn't in months. For the first time in a long while, Marcus felt relaxed, free. As they drove past the city limits, he looked at his family in the rearview mirror and smiled. This was going to be good, little did he know. The journey ahead would test everything he believed in. It was getting late. The sun had long gone down, and the sky was now dark with stars blinking like tiny lights above them. The Johnson family had been driving for hours. They were tired, hungry, and ready to stop for the night. They were passing through a small town in Nebraska called Brookville. It wasn't much, just a few gas stations, a diner, and some houses scattered along the road. There were no big hotels or bright signs, just quiet roads and sleepy streets. Marcus looked at the gas meter. The needle was almost touching E. He glanced at Tanya, who was sitting next to him in the front seat. "We need gas," he said. Tanya nodded. "And snacks, too. I think we're out." Marcus smiled. "I'll grab both." He turned off the highway and pulled into the only gas station open at that time. It was one of those old-style ones with flickering lights and a creaky door. A small dog barked behind the counter as they stepped inside. Marcus went straight to the pump, while Tanya and the kids grabbed drinks, chips, and some candy bars. After a few minutes, Marcus finished filling up the tank. He stretched his back, yawned, and walked over to help his family carry the snacks to the car. That's when it happened. Trouble out of nowhere. A police car pulled into the gas station behind their SUV. Its red and blue lights flashed, but the siren was off. Two officers stepped out, one tall and thin, the other short and heavy-set. Both wore dark uniforms and mirrored sunglasses, even though it was nighttime. The taller officer, whose name tag read Officer Grady, walked straight toward Marcus without saying a word. His hand rested on his gun holster. Marcus noticed this right away. He raised his hand slightly, showing he meant no harm. "Evening, officers," he said calmly. "Is everything okay?" Officer Grady didn't respond. Instead, he stared at Marcus and asked, "You own this vehicle?" "Yes," Marcus replied. "It's a rental. Would you like to see my ID?" Before Marcus could reach into his pocket, Officer Grady snapped, "Don't move!" Marcus froze. So did the rest of the family. Tanya stepped forward. "Sir, he's just trying to show you his license." The second officer, Officer Bellamy, stayed silent but watched closely. Grady kept talking. "You know how many cars get stolen through rentals, especially by people from out of town?" Marcus kept his voice calm. "Sir, I'm not stealing anything. We're just on vacation. My wife and kids are right here. Grady didn't seem to care. He pointed at the car. License plate doesn't match any record. You sure this isn't hot? Marcus sighed. It's a rental. Let me check the paperwork. He slowly reached into his bag and pulled out a folder with the rental agreement. But before he could hand it over, Grady grabbed his wrist hard and twisted his arm behind his back. Hey, Marcus shouted. You don't need to do that. I'll decide what I need to do, Grady growled. You're under arrest. For what? Marcus demanded. Suspicion of grand theft auto, Grady said. And impersonating a federal agent, Tanya gasped. What? That's ridiculous. Maya started crying. Jordan stepped forward, but Officer Bellamy blocked him. You stay back, Bellamy warned. Tanya tried to reason with them. Listen, my husband is an FBI agent. He can prove it. Grady laughed. Yeah, sure he is. Marcus, still being held roughly, said, I have my badge and ID in my bag. Let me show you. Grady shook his head. Nope. You're coming with us. He shoved Marcus toward the patrol car. No, Tanya cried. This is wrong. Bellamy finally spoke. Ma'am, you need to calm down or you're going too. Tanya looked at her kids. Jordan, Maya, call someone. Call your uncle. Call the FBI. But before she could say more, Grady turned around and grabbed her too. You're resisting arrest, he said. So now you're coming in as well, Maya screamed. Jordan stepped forward again, but Bellamy pushed him back. Touch me again and I swear, Jordan began. Then don't move, Bellamy cut him off. Confusion and fear. The two officers threw Marcus and Tanya into separate squad cars. The doors slammed shut. Maya ran to Marcus's window, tears streaming down her face. Dad, what's happening? Marcus looked at her through the glass. Stay calm, baby. Everything will be okay. Jordan stood frozen, unsure what to do. He wanted to fight, to scream, to run after the cars, but he knew he couldn't. He had to stay strong, for his sister and for his parents. The police cars pulled out of the gas station and drove away, leaving Jordan and Maya alone in the parking lot. Maya hugged her brother tightly. What do we do now? Jordan wiped his eyes. We call Uncle Ray, and we make sure everyone knows what just happened. The town watches. Inside the gas station, the clerk had seen everything. So had the owner, who peeked out from behind the counter. A few customers were also watching through the windows. One of them, a young man named Carlos, had his phone out. He'd recorded most of the incident. Carlos looked at the video he had just taken. Man, this is crazy. He posted it online without hesitation. Within minutes, the video was being shared across social media. People were shocked, angry, confused. How can cops treat someone like that? One comment read. That guy said he's FBI. Why didn't they check? Another wrote. Others were less kind. Some comments defended the officers. Maybe he was lying. Maybe the car was stolen. But most people agreed on one thing. Something was very wrong here. Inside the police, Marcus sat in the back seat staring out the window. His heart was pounding, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had dealt with bad situations before. He knew panic wouldn't help. He needed to think clearly. Beside him, Officer Bellamy was driving. Grady was in the front passenger seat. You really think I'm lying? Marcus asked. Grady didn't turn around. I think people lie all the time, especially people like you. Marcus felt a wave of anger rise in his chest. People like me? Yeah, Grady sneered. You know, big city types thinking you're better than everyone else. Talking about the FBI like we're supposed to believe you. Marcus took a deep breath. I don't need you to believe me. The truth will come out. Grady chuckled. Sure it will. Meanwhile, back at the gas station. Back at the gas station, Jordan and Maya were still standing there, unsure what to do. Their phones were shaking in their hands as they dialed their uncle, Raymond, who worked in local government. "Uncle." Ray picked up on the third ring. "Hello? Uncle Ray," Maya cried. "They arrested Mom and Dad." "What? Who? Where are you?" "In Nebraska. Some cops just took them. They said Dad was lying about being FBI. Raymond's voice changed instantly. "Are you safe?" "Yes, but—" "Okay, listen carefully. Stay where you are. Don't move. I'm calling someone right now." He hung up fast. A long night begins at the police station. Marcus and Tanya were booked like criminals. Their fingerprints were taken. Mugshots were taken. They were thrown into separate holding cells. No lawyer, no calls, no explanation. Marcus sat on the cold bench in his cell, thinking. He had faced dangerous men before, gangsters, terrorists, corrupt officials. But tonight, he was locked up by the very system he had sworn to protect. And worse, he had been powerless to protect his family. "Let me know." Inside the cold, quiet jail cell, Marcus sat with his back against the wall. His hands were still cuffed behind him when he was brought in, but now they were off. Still he felt trapped, not just by the bars, but by the unfairness of it all. He looked at the small window above the door. It had thick iron bars across it. No way out. His mind raced. How did this happen? He thought about Tanya. Was she okay? Were the kids safe? He hadn't seen her since they were separated outside the police station. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but he knew yelling wouldn't help. He needed to stay calm. Think clearly. He closed his eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. A fight for truth. Across the hall, Tanya sat in another cell. Her face was red from crying, but she was trying hard not to break down completely. She kept replaying what happened at the gas station over and over in her head. Why didn't they believe us? Why did they treat us like criminals? She looked at her hands. They were shaking. She remembered Marcus telling their kids years ago, "You have to work twice as hard to get half as much." Now she understood that truth more than ever. A few minutes later, the heavy metal door at the end of the hallway opened. Officer Grady walked in with a smug look on his face. He stopped in front of Marcus's cell. "Well, FBI man," he said, "you got anything to say for yourself?" Marcus stood up slowly. He looked Grady straight in the eyes. "I've already told you who I am. You should have checked my ID. You should have verified everything before throwing me in here like some kind of criminal." Grady smirked. "Yeah? And how do we know you're really who you say you are?" Marcus shook his head. "You're joking, right? My badge, my ID, my rental papers, they're all in my bag. You can call the FBI. Hell, you can Google me." Grady folded his arms. "I don't take orders from you." Marcus stepped closer to the bars. "Then let me make a phone call. Let me contact my agency. That's your job. To investigate, not just arrest people because they're black and out of town." Grady didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked away, leaving Marcus standing there, fists clenched. The kids. Try to help back at the gas station. Jordan and Maya were still waiting. They had called Uncle Ray, and he promised to help, but so far nothing had changed. Maya was pacing nervously while Jordan sat on a bench holding his phone tightly. "I can't just sit here," Maya whispered. "We have to do something." Jordan nodded. "I know, but what can we do? We're stuck here until someone comes." Just then, Maya's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. It was a message from one of her friends. "Hey," she said, showing Jordan the message. "My friend says someone posted a video online of what happened tonight." Jordan leaned in. "What does it say?" Maya scrolled through comments. Some were angry, some were confused. Others said things like, "This looks bad." That guy might actually be FBI. Those cops need to lose their jobs. Maya looked at Jordan. Maybe if we share it too, more people will see it. Maybe someone important will notice. Jordan thought for a second, then nodded. Let's post it. If people find out what happened, maybe they'll start asking questions. Within minutes, the video was spreading fast. Inside the FBI office back in Chicago, Marcus's partner, Special Agent Lisa Carter, was working late. She had been going through case files when her phone rang. It was Raymond Johnson, Marcus's brother-in-law. "Lisa?" he said urgently. "Have you heard from Marcus?" Agent Carter frowned. "No." "Why?" Raymond explained everything. How Marcus and Tanya were arrested in Nebraska, how the kids were alone, and how no one had been able to reach the local police. Lisa's stomach dropped. "Wait, he's under arrest? For what?" "Grand theft auto and impersonating an officer," Raymond said. "But it's all wrong. He showed them his ID. They didn't listen." Lisa stood up fast. "Okay. I'm calling the field office in Omaha right now." She hung up and immediately started making calls. Within 10 minutes, the entire FBI Midwest Command knew what was happening, and they were furious. Pressure builds. Meanwhile, the viral video was causing chaos online. News outlets picked it up. Hashtags like "Free Marcus Johnson" and "Justice for the Johnson family" started trending. People were shocked. How could this happen? One news anchor asked during a live broadcast. An FBI agent being arrested for simply being black and on vacation? Protesters gathered outside the Brookville police station. Local reporters showed up demanding answers. Inside the station, Sheriff Tom Harris, who hadn't even known about the arrests until now, was losing his mind. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted at Officer Grady. Grady tried to explain. "Sir, we had reason to believe the car was stolen." Sheriff Harris cut him off. "Did you check the plates? Did you verify his identity?" Grady looked away. Harris turned red. "You didn't even try to confirm he was lying?" Grady stayed silent. Harris stormed into the jail area and looked at Marcus sitting in his cell. "Are you really an FBI agent?" he asked. Marcus stood up calmly. "Yes, sir, I can prove it. Just call my office." Harris pulled out his phone and dialed. 5 minutes later, he hung up and stared at Marcus in disbelief. "You're telling the truth," he muttered. Marcus nodded. "Yes, sir. I've been saying that the whole time." A difficult night. Even though the sheriff now believed Marcus, nothing changed yet. He and Tanya were still locked up. Their kids were still waiting. Marcus was tired, angry, frustrated. Tanya was scared. She kept thinking about her children. Are they safe? She asked herself again and again. In the next cell over, a young woman watched her. "You okay?" the woman asked softly. Tanya wiped her tears. "I don't know anymore." The woman nodded. "I've been here since yesterday. Nobody tells us anything." Tanya sighed. "Same here." They sat in silence for a while. Jordan and Maya. Wait back at the gas station, the kids were getting more anxious. It had been hours. Their uncle had told them someone would come soon, but no one had arrived yet. Jordan paced back and forth. "I feel so useless." Maya hugged herself. "Me too." Suddenly her phone buzzed again. "It's Mom!" she cried. She answered quickly. "Mom, are you okay?" Tanya's voice came through, shaky but alive. "Yes, baby. We're still inside, but the sheriff knows the truth now." Maya breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank God," Tanya continued. "Listen, honey, stay strong. Don't let anyone scare you or push you around. We'll get through this." "We love you," Jordan said into the phone. "I love you both so much," Tanya replied. They said goodbye, and Maya wiped her tears again. Jordan put an arm around her. "They'll be okay," he said. "They have to be." Marcus fights back in his cell. Marcus was done waiting. He banged on the bars. "Hey, I want to speak to the sheriff." A few seconds later, Sheriff Harris appeared. "Yes?" he asked. Marcus spoke firmly. "I want my wife released. I want our kids back. And I want to file a formal complaint against Officers Grady and Bellamy." Harris hesitated. "I understand, Mr. Johnson, but I need to follow procedure." Marcus stepped forward. "Procedure? Your officers violated every rule in the book. They abused their power. They treated me like a criminal without proof. And now my family is suffering." Harris looked uncomfortable. "I know, and I agree. But this isn't just about me anymore. The state attorney general has been contacted. So has the FBI. Marcus nodded. "Good. Then let's make sure justice happens." Sakrutats. The town reacts outside the station. The crowd was growing. Some people were angry. Others were confused. A few still supported the officers. One man held a sign that read, "Protect our cops. Don't believe every video." Another person yelled, "Shame on you, Brookville." Reporters interviewed locals. "This doesn't represent our town," one woman said. "We're good people." Another man added, "But this shows how real racism still is." The sheriff stood outside and gave a short statement. "We are investigating the actions of 2 officers involved in the arrest of Marcus and Tanya Johnson. We will hold those responsible accountable." A long road. Ahead. Inside the jail. Marcus finally lay down on the thin mattress. He was exhausted. He thought about his parents. What would they say if they saw this? He thought about his kids. How would this affect them? He thought about his career. Would this change how he saw the world? He closed his eyes. Tomorrow things would change, but tonight he could only hope. "Let me know." The next morning, the small town of Brookville was buzzing with energy. Reporters had arrived from all over the country. Cameras were set up outside the police station. Protest signs lined the streets. People were angry. They wanted answers. Inside the jail, Marcus Johnson sat up slowly on his thin mattress. His back ached from the hard bed. He looked around the cold, gray cell and took a deep breath. He could feel it. Something big was about to happen today. A few cells down, Tanya was pacing nervously. She hadn't slept much either. Her mind kept going back to her kids. Were they safe? Had anyone found them yet? Just then, the heavy metal door at the end of the hallway creaked open. It wasn't Officer Grady or Bellamy this time. It was someone else. Someone wearing a dark suit and sunglasses. Marcus stood up quickly. "Agent Carter?" he said in surprise. Special Agent Lisa Carter walked straight toward him, her face serious but calm. "Yes," she said. "We're getting you out." Behind her, 2 more agents followed, one tall and muscular, the other shorter but clearly ready for action. Tanya's eyes lit up as she saw them too. "Oh my God," she whispered. Agent Carter turned to the jail guard. "Open both cells. Now." The guard hesitated. I need authorization." Carter pulled out her badge. "You're looking at it." The guard nodded nervously and unlocked the doors. As Marcus stepped out, he felt like he could finally breathe. Again. He looked at Carter. "How bad is it out there?" She sighed. "It's everywhere. The video went viral. People are furious. The FBI is involved. So is the state attorney general." Marcus nodded. "Good." The town explodes outside. The crowd had grown even larger. People held signs that read, "No justice, no peace. Feds protect their own. Stop racist policing." News vans circled the block. Journalists shouted questions at passing officers. One reporter shouted into her microphone, "This is live from Brookville, Nebraska, where the community is reeling after a shocking arrest involving an FBI agent and his family. The sheriff has promised an investigation, but many are calling for immediate action against the officers involved. A local radio host commented, "This isn't just about one case. This is about trust, about fairness, about how we treat each other." Territoire Kedwe. Inside the sheriff's office. Back inside, Sheriff Harris sat behind his desk, rubbing his temples. He knew this was coming. His phone rang non-stop. Calls from reporters, calls from politicians, calls from the FBI. And now Special Agent Lisa Carter was standing in front of him. "You've got 2 officers who broke the law," she said firmly. "And you let it happen." Harris looked up. "I didn't know until it was too late." Carter crossed her arms. "That's not good enough." Marcus stepped forward. "Where are Grady and Bellamy?" Harris swallowed hard. "They're in their offices." Carter turned to the 2 agents behind her. "Bring them in." A few minutes later, Officers Grady and Bellamy were escorted into the room. Grady looked stunned. "What the hell is this?" Bellamy stayed silent, eyes darting around the room. Carter placed a folder on the table and opened it. "This," she said, "is your disciplinary file. And this," she pointed at a printed copy of the video, "is your public downfall." Grady scoffed. "Come on, we made a mistake." "A mistake?" Marcus snapped. "You arrested me without cause. You insulted me. You humiliated my wife. You scared my children." Grady looked away. Bellamy finally spoke. "We thought we were doing our job." Marcus stepped closer. "Your job is to protect people, not pick on them because of their skin. Color," Carter added. "You violated multiple laws last night. False arrest, abuse of power, assault, and that's just the start." Sheriff Harris cleared his throat. "I've already started the process to suspend both of you pending investigation." Grady shot up from his chair. "What? That's not fair." Harris glared at him. "You lost the right to talk about fairness when you treated an FBI agent like a criminal." Reuniting the family. Meanwhile, outside the station, Jordan and Maya waited nervously near a news van. They had been taken in by a kind officer who gave them snacks and water, but they still hadn't seen their parents. Suddenly, the front doors opened. There, walking out with Agent Carter and 2 FBI agents, were Marcus and Tanya. Maya screamed with joy and ran toward them. "Mom! Dad!" Jordan followed close behind. The family collided in a tight hug. Tears streamed down their faces. "I missed you so much," Tanya cried. "We thought we'd never see you again," Jordan said. Marcus hugged them both tightly. "We're okay now. We're together." A reporter rushed over with a microphone. "Mr. Johnson, what do you have to say about what happened?" Marcus looked at the camera and took a deep breath. "I'm an FBI agent. I've served this country for over a decade. I've risked my life for justice. Last night I was arrested for no reason. My wife was treated like a criminal. My children were left alone and scared." He paused. "This wasn't just about us. It's about every person who's ever been judged before being known. Every family who's been torn apart by fear instead of facts." He looked at his kids. "I told them to be proud of who they are. But last night, I realized how hard that can be." He turned back to the camera. "But I also believe in truth, in justice, and in change." The crowd erupted into applause. A nation. Reacts across the country, people watched the moment unfold on TV and online. In schools, teachers discussed it in class. At dinner tables, families talked about it. On social media, hashtags like "Justice for Marcus Johnson" and "End Racial Profiling" trended worldwide. Some people posted stories of their own experiences with unfair treatment. Others shared messages of support. "Thank you for speaking out. This needs to stop. We stand with you." Even some former cops joined the conversation. One retired officer wrote, "Not all of us are like that, but those who are must be held accountable. The aftermath begins later that day. Marcus and his family sat in a quiet meeting room inside the FBI field office in Omaha. Agent Carter joined them. "We'll make sure everything gets handled properly," she said. "You'll get full support from the agency." Marcus nodded. "Thank you," Tanya asked. "What happens now?" Carter replied, "Grady and Bellamy will be investigated. There may be charges. The town is under pressure to reform its police department." Marcus looked out the window. "I don't want revenge," he said quietly. "I want justice. I want this to matter." Carter smiled gently. "It already does." The Johnson family left Nebraska behind. They never looked back. A few days after the arrest, Marcus, Tanya, Jordan, and Maya boarded a flight back home to Chicago. The trip had started as a vacation, but it ended as something else entirely. Something bigger. As the plane lifted into the sky, Marcus stared out the window. He watched the small town disappear below him like a bad dream. He was free now, but he knew freedom didn't always mean peace. Justice begins. Back in Brookville, the wheels of justice started turning. Officer Grady and Officer Bellamy were officially suspended with pay, while the state attorney general's office launched a full investigation. Within 2 weeks, both officers were fired for misconduct. Grady was charged with false arrest, abuse of power, and assault. Bellamy faced similar charges but avoided jail time by cooperating with investigators and admitting his mistakes. The town's sheriff, Tom Harris, publicly apologized during a press conference. "This wasn't just about 2 bad cops," he said. "It was about a system that allowed fear and bias to override duty." He announced new training programs for the entire department. He also promised to work with civil rights groups to rebuild trust between the police and the community. National attention. The story didn't stop at Brookville. News outlets across the country covered every detail. Talk shows discussed it. Politicians debated it. Activists rallied behind it. Marcus became a voice for change. He was invited to speak before Congress during a hearing on racial profiling and police accountability. There, he stood tall in front of lawmakers and told them exactly what happened. "I was arrested not because I did anything wrong," he said, "but because of how I look, because of the color of my skin." His words echoed across the room. "I've served this country for over 10 years. I've risked my life to protect people. But last summer, I was treated like a criminal by the very people who are supposed to serve and protect." He paused. "That should never happen again." The room fell silent. Then came the applause. Healing as a family back home, the Johnsons tried to return to normal, but nothing felt the same. Jordan and Maya struggled with what they had seen. They were strong kids, but even they couldn't forget the fear of watching their parents get taken away. Tanya took them to therapy. So did Marcus. At first, talking about it was hard, but slowly, healing began. One evening, as the sun set over the city, the family sat together on their porch. Maya broke the silence. "Dad, do you still believe in justice?" Marcus thought for a moment. "Yes," he said. "More than ever. But after everything?" she asked. He nodded. "Because of everything. If we stay quiet, nothing changes. But when we speak up, when we fight for what's right, that's how we make things better." Tanya smiled. "And we're stronger together," Jordan added. "We showed them we won't be broken." They all laughed softly. For the first time in a long time, the air felt lighter. A new mission. Marcus returned to work. But things were different now. He stayed with the FBI, but he changed roles. Instead of chasing criminals, he focused on training new agents. He helped develop programs on ethics, bias, and how to build trust with communities. He traveled across the country giving talks. He worked closely with young black men who dreamed of becoming agents, just like he once had. He wanted them to know, you belong here. Your dreams matter. Tanya went back to her job as a school counselor, but now she spoke openly about the experience too. She shared her story with students who felt invisible or unheard. She reminded them, you may face unfairness. You may feel afraid. But don't let that define you. Use your voice. Fight for others. Life after the storm months passed. The video stopped trending. The headlines faded, but the impact remained. In Brookville, the town started to change. New officers were hired. Old policies were reviewed. Even the gas station clerk who recorded the video became a local hero. He used the attention to start a nonprofit group aimed at supporting victims of police misconduct. People reached out to Marcus and Tanya, thanking them. Some sent letters. Others sent messages online. Thank you for standing up. Your courage gave me hope. You made us see the truth. One message stood out. It was from a teenage boy named Elijah. He wrote, I'm black. I'm scared sometimes, but seeing you stand tall made me feel like maybe I can be someone too. Thank you. Marcus read that message 3 times. Then he replied, yes, you can. And you will? A quiet moment. One afternoon, Marcus took his kids to the park. They played basketball while Tanya read a book nearby. Everything felt peaceful. Marcus sat on a bench and watched them. He smiled. Life hadn't gone according to plan. He had expected a simple road trip. Instead, he got thrown into a battle for justice. But in the end, he found strength. He found purpose. He found hope. And most importantly, he found his family. Together, safe, free.